One Senate committee considers raising the economic liability cap for companies involved in oil spills. And another encouraging update from the government on oil collection efforts in the Gulf. Plus, this senator discusses the upcoming vote on her plan to prevent EPA from regulating greenhouse gases.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
And good afternoon, I'm Tyler Suiters in for Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for this Tuesday edition of the Energy Report. We're following some breaking news right now. The Department of Interior is announcing major safety changes for both shallow water and deep water drilling. The government is saying, in effect, that the industry's word is not good enough and safety will have to be verified independently. Now, among the new rules listed from the Department of the Interior, all blowout preventers must be re-inspected and certified independently. Also, there must be independent verification of shear rams. Those are designed to cut through the drill pipe. The rams will have to work correctly at the depths and pressures involved and must have backup power. Another new requirement, tougher elements for cementing of wells. Many of these rules, we're told, will go into effect immediately. Now, the 6-month moratorium in the wake of the Gulf spill is raising concerns about the loss of oil production. And today, the EIA issued its forecast saying the resulting loss from the deepwater wells would be 26,000 barrels a day in the fourth quarter of 2010. According to EIA, that number would then rise to 70,000 barrels a day in 2011. The Gulf of Mexico currently produces about 1.7 million barrels each day. That total is about a quarter of U.S. production. On this, the first day of Capitol Hill hearings since the Memorial Day recess, committees are once again focusing on oil spills and the bill for those responsible for those spills. There is legislation underway in both the House and Senate right now to raise the federal economic liability cap for any future spills from $75 million to $10 billion. And today, the Senate Judiciary Committee heard testimony about whether federal liability limits have encouraged oil companies to be irresponsible. Among those speaking today, the brother of one of the 11 men killed in the Deepwater Horizon accident.
We are asking you to amend the Death on the High Seas Act to allow for the recovery of non-pecuniary damages. Currently, Michelle Stafford Max can only recover pecuniary damages. Stafford and Max will never play in the father-son golf tournament at the local golf course with their dad, or experience the thrill of their first Saturday night in Tiger Stadium with their father at their side. Likewise, Michelle will never again experience a quiet dinner at home after a hard day with her true love. She will not celebrate another wedding anniversary, the last one that would have occurred only 3 days after this accident. Most recently, Michelle did not have Gordon there to comfort her in the delivery room and tell her how much he loves her and the beautiful baby we now call Maxwell Gordon. These are all experiences among many, many others for which there is no compensation under the current law for maritime victims.
Also from the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chairman Patrick Leahy is now supporting a plan that would essentially overturn the 2008 Supreme Court decision that limited Exxon's liability for the 1989 Exxon Valdez spill, tying it to the company's economic damages. Coast Guard Admiral Thad Allen says the containment cap now placed on the Gulf leak is capturing oil at a better rate right now than it had before. Nearly 15,000 barrels of oil have been prevented from escaping into Gulf waters, according to Allen, over the last 24 hours.
In the last 24-hour period, that was from midnight last night to midnight this night, we were able to recover 14,842 barrels. This has climbed steadily from the first day, which you remember we went, I think the last 4 days we've gone from about 6,000 barrels up to almost 15,000. We continue to optimize production, make sure we can take as much oil out of that stream as we can right now. One of the 4 vents on the containment cap is closed at this point, and we continue to monitor it moving forward.
As for those affected by the spill and the claims BP is now receiving, Admiral Allen says the company was struggling with the handling of the claims, and officials would then be meeting with the company to provide oversight of the process if it is in fact deemed necessary. And the spill is making waves overseas as well today. British officials say they are now planning to double the number of inspections carried out at oil rigs in the North Sea. Britain's Department of Energy says the average number of annual environmental checks aboard the country's roughly 24 drilling rigs would rise from 8 to 16. The department did not, however, provide details of the inspections, but it did say those inspections involved visits to each of the rigs. Right now here in Washington, the vote wrangling is underway as the Senate approaches a litmus test of sorts, Thursday's anticipated vote on the authority of EPA to regulate greenhouse gases. Today, Lisa Murkowski discussed her pending disapproval resolution. This is a measure that would prevent the agency from beginning the regulation of carbon dioxide and other gases. About a dozen of her Republican colleagues joined her for the news conference and to put their support behind the resolution. Last month, Murkowski and Majority Leader Harry Reid agreed to hold a vote on this resolution on Thursday, a vote that could be a bellwether for climate legislation if it arrives on the floor later this year. Among those supporting the resolution today, one of the former co-authors of that pending climate bill.
What Lisa's doing needs to be done, and what Congress may do needs to be done. Doing nothing is the worst of all situations for us as Americans. The EPA regulation of carbon, I think, would be a disaster for consumers and businesses because they don't have the tools that Congress would have to transition to a low-carbon economy.
And the Obama administration is also discussing Murkowski's disapproval resolution today. Both the Office of Management and Budget and EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson say that this particular measure would have the unintended result of gutting EPA's authority in the Clean Cars program. That's to paraphrase what Lisa Jackson said. Also, according to OMB, if this disapproval resolution does in fact pass on Thursday, White House advisors would recommend that President Obama veto that measure. This afternoon, 10 East Coast states are joining federal authorities in a consortium to promote the development of offshore wind energy. These are the members of what is now called the Atlantic Offshore Wind Energy Consortium: Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar says this group will promote safe and environmentally responsible development, enhance the nation's energy security, and also create jobs. A new regional renewable energy office will also be established in Virginia to coordinate and expedite the development of wind, solar, and other renewable energy resources off the Atlantic coast. Inspection teams have re-entered Massey Energy's Upper Big Branch coal mine in West Virginia today. Massey says that air samples showed stable conditions there, and MSHA confirmed there were no signs of elevated levels of carbon monoxide or methane gas. The teams are also checking 5 sets of seals used to close off mined-out areas. So far, they have found no problem with those seals. Exploratory teams of government and company employees are expected to spend up to 2 weeks working underground there at the mine to make sure it is in fact safe enough for investigators to begin searching for clues as to the cause of the deadly April 5th explosion. We will take a look now at some of the events scheduled around the Washington, D.C. area coming up on Wednesday. First of all, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee is taking testimony regarding the liability cap for the oil spill. We talked about this just a few minutes ago, including in this a review of the Big Oil Bailout Prevention Liability Act of 2010. That's one of the acts that would raise that cap. That's taking place in the Dirksen Senate Office Building. At 11 a.m. Eastern, Americans for Prosperity will hold a press conference as part of the Regulation Reality Tour. The purpose is to warn against what the group calls the EPA's power grab over global warming regulation. Also tomorrow, the EPA is expected out with its economic modeling results of the Kerry-Lieberman climate bill, the American Power Act. That report is expected to outline the costs and the benefits of the bill's sector-by-sector approach to regulating carbon emissions. That is this Tuesday edition of the Energy Report. A reminder, you can reach our team here in Washington anytime with your comments or your questions. Our address is there at the bottom of your screen. It's contact@cleanskies.com. And you can also follow us throughout your day on Twitter and Facebook. For all of us here in the Energy News Center, we're glad you're with us. I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News.